Ever wish you had someone to talk to anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're going through? Meet Psych, your 24/7 AI companion designed to help you process your thoughts, calm your mind, and keep you moving forward. Chat anytime during a panic attack, on a restless night, or just when you need to vent. Prefer talking instead of typing? Try voice journaling. Psych listens, transcribes, and truly understands. You can even upload screenshots of tough conversations and it'll help you unpack how they made you feel. Psych keeps life organized too. It can add appointments to your calendar, track your mood, and even summarize your sessions for your therapist so you'll never lose progress. Plus, built in crisis resources are always just one click away. It's a privacy first, constantly evolving, made to complement your professional care, not replace it. Ready to try it out? Head over to the link in this episode and use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off your first month subscription to PsychPal. PsychPal, because your mind deserves a companion too.
That's how you want last time. I don't want to be more, but you know I will not die. You can try it no more, just so you can kill my time. All the times that I told you, still got my pedal through the metal. Told you I'll be immortal, that's how you want last time. I don't want to be normal, so you can stay inside. That's why they say that you're local. You see this world is mine. I'm not leaving you hope for them time. I'm taking mode, I'm loading. I will show them one more, so that's how you one last time. I don't know what's so hard, can you get it through your mind?
Welcome to an exciting episode of Pete for Exciting, guys. I'm so happy to have this guest today. But before we get into that today, I'd like to introduce everybody to my new partner, PsychPal. If you guys want to go into my description in the bio, I have a link for you to try it out. Use my promo code Pete at checkout for 20% off your final purchase, guys. And with that being said, my guest today is the award-winning cartoonist with her upcoming book, AnxietyLand, dropping tomorrow. The one, the only Gemma Correll is here. Gemma, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me here.
So, Gemma, why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself, and then we'll get into the book itself.
Okay, so I'm Gemma. I'm from the UK originally, hence the accent. I now live in Southern California. I'm a cartoonist and an illustrator, and I guess a writer too, somewhat. And yeah, I've been working as a cartoonist for maybe 15 years now.
That's awesome, though. Is that always been something you're big on? Art always been a big thing for you, like cartoons and things like that too?
Yes, yeah, I've loved comics since I was a kid. My parents had the, Gary Larson, The Far Side annuals at home, so those were my favorite books to read growing up. And I didn't realize that it was a real job that you could have until until I ended up going to art school, and then yeah, finally became a cartoonist myself.
Well, that's so cool, though. So, what was your first big break, though, when you were doing that? For people that don't really know, that's where we're digging in a little bit here, so they know. Like, what was your first big comic that you did? Was it something you self-published, or is it something you've been working on?
Well, I was very lucky that when I graduated from art college, kind of coincided with the time when social media was becoming a big thing. And I was on, Tumblr and Instagram and Facebook and so forth. And I was publishing my just personal comics. They weren't necessarily things that I was working on for a client, although
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that as well. And one of the first comics I published was it's just a drawing of myself, and it says "Nope" in big letters at the top. I'm just lying down on the ground. I was just a day when I was feeling particularly grumpy and tired. I didn't think much of it, and then that comic kind of exploded, and it's still really popular now. I think a lot of people identify with it.
That's really cool, though. I mean, so let's get into the nitty gritty now, okay? So, mental health, all right. So, has this always been a big thing for you? Is this something you've had? Did you start experiencing this at an early age, or is it something that you kind of figured out as you go? Because I know everybody has their own stories about how they discovered what they're dealing with these days. So, what was yours?
Yeah, I think I was dealing with anxiety in particular since I was pretty young. I remember even being, 5 years old and being just having this kind of sense of dread that percolated around me all of the
Mm-hmm.
time, but I didn't understand what it was. And it took me years and years to understand that, firstly, it wasn't just me and I wasn't the only person in the world feeling that way. And secondly, that it was actually, a disorder and not part of my uh myself.
Yeah, yeah. So when you found out that you had anxiety, what was that moment where you realized, "Hey, I need help," because it's tough for a lot of people to ask for help at these points.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I would have asked for help a lot earlier, but the first time that I really knew that I really did need some proper help was when I went to university for the first time, and I talk about this in my book, but I was I'd already been struggling with panic attacks and agoraphobia a little bit, but it really kicked off when I went off away from home for the first time to university. And that's when I realized that I needed help, but it wasn't when I actually got help because I didn't know where to go.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard these days. People don't know what to do with these kind of things. But
Hmm.
look at you though. You got a book coming out. You have your memoir coming out. You're a successful cartoonist. You're doing a lot of things a lot of kids dreamed of doing as kids. Like we always used to doodle as kids. Like, okay, well maybe we'll make them big. You're doing this now. So, do you have any inspirational words for anybody out there? Like, for these younger cartoonists out there, you want to give them a little shout out really quick and then like maybe some words of encouragement.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I didn't come from kind of a background where I even knew that being a cartoonist could be a real job. It was something that I loved doing. I always loved to draw and I loved to read cartoons and comics. But where I come from is a lot more traditional. Um, and it being a cartoonist just seemed like this crazy thing that maybe people did in like America, and now I'm
Right.
in America. Um, but I there wasn't any kind of magic thing that I did to make it happen. It was just working at it for a really long time. Like I said, I was lucky that I started adopting social media and just sharing personal work. I think that that's kind of the most important thing for me is to even when I'm really busy making work for clients, is always doing personal work, always drawing in my sketchbook, and doing it every single day, no matter how I feel. And it's really perseverance that I think is the most important thing.
I love it. I love it. Gemma, so let's get into the reason you're here. Let's talk about Anxiety Land. I got to tell you right now that I think it's the coolest concept in making a book. Like I was looking at this thing and I was going like, this is really cool. And I told your contact Aubrey, I told her about this. I was like, I got to say, I love how you put this thing out. Like I'm a big graphic novel guy. So this thing instantly hit right away with me. Not to mention the fact I already deal with anxiety. The title alone just caught my attention. But the fact and the way you set this thing up is like you have a whole map in the beginning of it, how you draw it out, and then I love the way that when you animate with your character, like yourself in the book, how you're animating the feelings you're having, giving people a little more perspective on things. So was that your intention in the beginning? Because I love the idea, honestly. Let me tell you, I can't rave enough about this thing to people.
Thank you. Um, yeah, that was my intention was to depict anxiety from more than one direction. So I wanted to write about it, but a lot of people, myself included, are very visual, and it's very hard to describe anxiety with just using words, especially when you're in the thick of it. Um, I know for me personally, I find it really hard to just read and even communicate
Yeah.
very well when I'm very anxious. So images can say a lot. So I wanted to make images that were quite simple and graphic, and particularly with a map. I really like using these kind of almost infographics as a way of explaining things, and then also very simple ways of showing emotions and feelings and how they present to me personally.
I think I love it. I love it though. I love it because you're looking at it from the aspect most people don't. They always want to throw a bunch of text at us. And I'm like, you know, I've read a couple books, not really big, but graphic novels have always been close to my heart. Like things like the way they just kind of like, I like the pictures and mixtures. It's almost like, you have that comic book in your hands, like you're a kid. That's a moment you go back to. But I loved how you set yours up like a whole theme park theme. I thought that was really cool. It's like, all right, now that's really genius. I'm jealous because now I want my book like this too now. But what was that one moment though when you decided you wanted to write a book? Because now you're putting your story out there for people to see. That alone has to be nerve wracking because we know how
Mhm.
people perceive mental health these days. And things like that. Were you nervous putting this thing out? Because you're sharing your actual feelings of how you're feeling every single day to people now.
Yeah, yeah, it is a little bit nerve-wracking. I think that it helps that I've already been sharing the shorter form comics for quite a long time. So I'm not just going in straight with all this new stuff. People who follow me and my work already know that I suffer from anxiety, and I have written these shorter comics about it. But this book is so much more in depth and more personal.
Hmm.
There's things in there that people, even my own family don't really know about. So yeah, it is a little bit scary putting it out there into the world. But I'm really glad that I did it.
Especially the fact, like you said a lot of people didn't know what you were thinking. Your close personal family members will start reading this and see exactly what it is you're dealing with. I think it'll be a better learning experience for a lot of people that don't really get it. Those people that don't have mental health issues that deal with these kind of things like we do. Like anxiety for us presents differently for each one of us. I like how you use your strengths. You're already being a cartoonist. You turned it into what you do best, and you just killed this thing. I like I said, I couldn't get enough. I've been raving to people. It's like, man, let me tell y'all got to check this thing out. I've been telling all my friends about it. I'm like, hey, you guys got to see this book, man. This is really interesting way that she laid it out. And I think it's really great because people are visual learners. I think that's a really good point when you make that point because a lot of us that's how we learn. Like we do better looking and seeing at things versus someone telling me. It's like, okay, I get you. Those are just words. What the hell does that mean? And what does it look like? But you did a great job illustrating it though. I loved it. I think the way that you've laid this thing out is actually groundbreaking because you don't see a lot of people's memoirs that are like that. In fact, I don't think any memoir I've seen so far of people I've interviewed have ever done it in that kind of fashion. But the way you've done it, that I think is pretty cool, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to make something that's unique. I've read a lot of books about anxiety and
Hmm.
um, like longer form, just straight written works. And I mean, a lot of them I've really enjoyed, but they haven't quite captured. Obviously, only I can speak about my personal experience,
Yeah,
but I hope
exactly.
that other people will resonate with it as well.
So let me ask you this though. Early on when you were posting things about your mental health, did you get a real mixed response? Because some people are not really understanding and really not too kind on the internet, as we can tell these days. And I from some of my previous guests, there's some people that get some nasty comments. Were you getting kind of a mixed review when you started putting these things out there?
Yeah, definitely. I've experienced some pretty nasty comments, and I still get them. Um, I just try not to take them too personally now. That's just come from many years of learning.
Yeah.
Um, I try to remember that everybody's going through their own journey, and yeah, it's not a reflection on me. It's
Yeah,
a reflection on
exactly. That's good though. I'm glad you adopted that mentality because these guys out here say some pretty heinous things. There's a guest I had on before. She had she had a lot of problems. She has schizoaffective disorder and things like that. Some really extremely kind of stuff that's in that far range of a lot of people don't even understand. If she started explaining it to you, you start looking at her like, oh my God, kind of thing. So like, I don't understand why people have to judge people like that. Like you're out here putting yourself out there, telling people about your own journey. Were you worried about people finding out about these kind of things, especially you being a cartoonist? A lot of people only know you by your work, but not they don't know who
them.
you are as a person a lot of times.
Yeah, I feel like my work is very personal, and I um kind of depict myself as honestly as I can in my work, but there is also a level of humor that I use, and I I'm not trying to use it to deflect from the personal story. I'm trying to use it as a way of bringing people in because, like you say, people don't necessarily understand anxiety. It's very much and mental health. It's very much like a spectrum. Um, a lot of people just think that anxiety is just being a bit worried. And they maybe, especially now, people misuse terms like panic attacks or OCD because they don't understand it. So, um, and it's understandable that people don't quite get it because it's not always talked about.
Yeah.
So all I can do is kind of put my story out into the world and hope that it helps people maybe understand a little bit more.
Well, you've come to the right place because stories here matter. A lot of people hear this show, will listen, and will say something. Oh, hey, I listened to this episode with so and so, and they mention it by name and things like that too. So I'm expecting that email to be coming in here after this episode drops, obviously, things like that. But you did make a good point though. It's just like some people just don't get it though. And it's like it's horrible because like you're out there putting yourself out on the internet, especially the scariest place in the world to be these days because people say nasty things all day, every day to you, and it's just like it's hard, but it's so powerful that you're out there regardless. You're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this anyways, and then you turn it into a memoir about yourself, so people can better understand you, which I think would be great because a lot of us always want to know what you guys are thinking as cartoonists and people that do all these really cool things out there, and we're always wondering what your insights are, kind of things like that, like what it's like to be you. But the fact that you went and turned it into a you're like, you know what? I'm gonna flip the script. I'm gonna do not do a book. I'm gonna write. I'm gonna write it my own way. I love it. I think that you're going against the grain, which I think is it's really cool because now I want to do my book like that too. Because I always talk I want to do a book. Now it's like, damn. Now I got to get up to Gemma's level. I got to start. I got to find somebody to draw this thing for me.
I recommend it. It's hard work, but it's fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm sure the process will be fun, because like I do this show and then I do a side project and I do all these other things. I'm a man generator. I don't know if you know human design, but I'm a man generator. I do a lot of things. So, it's really interesting when you get different people that come on here, the different stories you hear from people. So I know when Aubrey reached out to me, I was excited. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be kind of cool. So, you know, um, do you have any other family members that deal with mental health, or are you the only one though? I mean, because sometimes other people have other things that go on in their lives. And that's a lot of times, a lot of these other ones come from trauma too, like BPD and things like that all show up like that too, as well.
Yeah, I my honest answer is I don't know. I'm from the UK, and
Hmm.
mental health is not something that is talked about a lot there. It's definitely getting better, as
Yeah.
it is in the US too. But as a family, it's not something that we really talked about. So I definitely can identify traits of like anxiety in certain family members, but I can't diagnose them. I'm not a doctor, obviously. Um, so I think that one thing that definitely kind of informed my anxiety is the bottling up of emotions, which again is a pretty common thing in the UK. Um, it's people don't want to be seen as hysterical or as making a fuss. So
Hmm.
I growing up, I would always do my best not to bother people by making a fuss, and
Yeah.
that included trying to tamp down my anxiety and my emotions so that it wouldn't um, bother anybody else.
So what made you want to write the book though? I mean, like, is it just like you woke up a moment, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and put my life out there on the spectrum? Because with anxiety, you had to be freaking out at that point. You're like, oh God, what are people gonna think? I could just imagine the thoughts that are going through your head because I know mine would have been like going 20 directions. Like you would have had 20 people that are having a 10-way conversation going, oh well, you had to be kind of wrestling with this idea. Was it one of those things you just woke up one day and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna write a book about myself and just put it out there for people and see what happens?
Yeah, it was in the back of my head for a really long time, for years.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that I'd always wanted to write a longer form graphic novel after spending so long doing short form comics. And I wanted to write about something that I knew. And this is kind of the best thing that I knew was myself and
Right.
my experiences. And yeah, I wanted to use the theme park framework as well. That was something that was always in the back of my mind. I just wanted an excuse to go to Disneyland, basically. I was like, "This is for research."
I love it. See, I was gonna ask you that too. Why the theme park, theme though too? We were gonna get into that one next because I was curious. Why did you choose Anxiety Land as your theme park? Was theme parks really big for you as a kid? Like, I know here in the States you have like Six Flags, Busch Gardens, and
Mhm.
all Cedar Point, a bunch of these other places like that. Was it always a big thing for you?
Kids, we didn't really have any big theme parks in the UK. There was like kind of a smaller one that I went to a couple of times, but
Yeah.
I did get to go to Disney World when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
I have family in the US, so we were visiting them, and then we went down to Disney World, and it just blew my mind. And I kind of became obsessed with theme parks from that point on. And now I live in California, so obviously I live pretty close to Disneyland. And it's not just about the rides for me. I love the whole aesthetic of the theme park. I love the feeling of kind of going into another world, like just
Hmm.
forgetting everyday life, going into another space. And I feel like that's what I wanted to depict is like this whole world of anxiety that people who are reading the book may or may not know about. Um, and also, a lot of the rides kind of depict emotions
Yeah.
that can be part of anxiety. So, for example, in the book, I have the roller coaster, and anxiety can be very much like a roller coaster of emotions, especially with panic attacks.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, one a therapist that I spoke to described a panic attack like that, like it's a slow rise of panic, and then there's a peak, and he kind of told me like there's this peak, and once you're there, it's not gonna get any worse. And that's something that I always keep in the back of my mind, that there is always a peak. It's not something that's gonna last forever, even if it feels like it's going to.
So let me ask you though, what is a panic attack like for Gemma? For me, it's like when I start melting down, it's like you better just let me go because I might as well get it all out of my system. So what is it like for you? Because I always ask, I'm always curious because for each of us we experience in our own ways. So and it's great when I get other people that have similar mental health issues I have too because it's great because you can highlight what it's like for other people, give them an experience, like what I mean, tell people like it's like well, everybody's different. Everybody experiences things differently. So for you, what is it like when you go into a panic attack?
For me, it usually starts with like physical symptoms, and for me, mine are very situational. So I
Mhm.
have agoraphobia, and so if I feel like I'm trapped in a space, for example, an elevator or
Oh, no.
any situation that I might feel trapped. It starts with a lot of physical feelings, and then I've I attach those feelings to anxiety, and then my brain starts going, "Oh no, my heart's beating fast. That must mean that I'm going to have a panic attack." And of course, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I have a panic attack. And like you said, the way that it happens for you now, I try my best to let it happen, because I think that is the best way to deal with it. It's not going to be fun, but if you let it happen without trying to push it away, it will eventually subside. Whereas up until a few years ago, I was doing everything to try and distract myself, to try and stop it happening. And in the end, that just really makes it worse. So that's why I don't necessarily go for like distraction techniques and
Yeah.
stuff, because I know a lot of people will do things like have like sour gummies to stop
Mhm.
um to stop the panic, to like distract the brain. But I think then that becomes something where if you don't have the sour gummies, then
Yeah, you come
it's like a
codependent on it, yep.
right, yeah, it's I don't want to say it's a crutch, but it's like something that you rely on to stop the panic attack. Whereas I really think that it's important to let it happen.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that, once you're in that mode, it's like, just let it go, and you might as well just watch me go, man. You might as well just let me go because 'cause I'm gonna say what I'm gonna
Mhm.
say regardless. And I hate it when people come to me and go, "Oh, calm down," or this. It's like Hey, listen, that's a great advice, but it doesn't work. I know people tend to freak out in those situations too. The sour gummy thing helps though for me when like it's starting, it starts to act up a little like, if I feel a little start getting a little anxiety or something, or I start panicking, I swipe it. Okay, it helps. I'll have that. I do like I talk to myself, like I'll get the thoughts out of my head. So sometimes you'll see me over there, I'm talking to myself, and you're like, is Pete talking to himself? I literally am. I am talking to myself, I'm getting the thoughts in my head, or I do this thing I call downloading my brain. Like I have a friend group on Instagram. I'll literally click record and I'll just send them a complete random message of just blurbing things out. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'll see y'all later. Then they'll know exactly what it is when they see like a 5 minute long like message sitting there like, okay, Pete's about to do something here wild. Here we go. Because my next question obviously was going to be is like, what kind of techniques do you do to manage your anxiety? Do you do like anxiety journals or anything like that? Or do you writing? I mean, because you already do drawing now. Is drawing one of your things that you do? Like you just go in that moment. You're like, I'm going to go relax and get my mind off things. I'm just going to sit down and just see what comes to mind when I start drawing something. Any of those kind of techniques you're using?
Yeah, drawing and writing are obviously big ones for me. And it depends what kind of mode I'm in. If I'm anxious but not fully in panic mode, anything that's gonna that I can use to harness my thoughts, not try and distract
Yeah.
from them, but just write them down, draw them, just take myself out of the space that I'm in, whether going for a walk with my dogs or just watching my dogs even is I really love doing. Just because I tend to go into overthinking mode and my thoughts will go
Hmm.
round and round in my head, and that's where it starts to get bad. If I'm already in the situation of a panic attack, I just focus outwardly, but also feel as much as I can, like let the physical sensations run through my body and just know that they can't hurt me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so. I think a lot of people in those situations forget to ask you what they can do best for you. I think everybody else wants to have is that what I like to call it the hero complex, or they want to save everything, they want to fix everything, but it's like sometimes you can't. You just got to let it happen. Like just be there in space. You know what I mean? Like you just want somebody present to understand that I'm going to melt down here. I need you to understand that this is going to happen and not to panic because there's really nothing else you can do to help me. Just let me go. Let me feel the feelings I'm going to feel. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah, it's definitely. I f- I like having somebody there with me, depending on who it is. If it's someone that's close to me, but I
Hmm.
don't need them to necessarily do anything. Just having them there and feeling safe with them is enough. And the people who are close to me know that now.
That's
I'm really
good.
lucky to have some really great people around me.
That's good. That's good to have a great support system of people that you can trust in those times of need and things like that as well, and stuff like that. So, if you wanted someone to take one message away from this book, what would you say that one thing is?
That you're not alone. If this person is struggling with any kind of mental health issue, it can feel so isolating. And I hope that they can read it and realize that they're not the only person in the world who feels that way, even though it can feel like that. And if it's somebody reading who doesn't necessarily struggle themselves, but knows somebody who does, that there are ways to support that person.
Yeah, no, I think what your book's going to do is it's going to bring light to a lot of things for people. For those people that don't like, they hear what it means, but they don't really get what it means. The visualization part of it will really help them out to get an idea what cycle of emotions you're going through at the time, or somebody else they may know is going through these things and start noticing things. So I think it's really great. I love what you're doing with this because I think that it's a step in the right direction, showing more people like, hey, listen, this is what we deal with. Like, just so you know, when I say I'm dealing my anxiety's kind of going acting up today. This is what the feelings I could be feeling at this moment, And I know when it comes to like BPD and things like that too, BPD is an interesting. I'd love to see your perspective on that one in a visual sense because like those guys, man, they deal with a lot of things, and I think it's really cool. I think this opens it up to a lot of different things. Like you could start exploring different anxiety or different mental health issues and just kind of like see what they are, ask people, and then just basically put it into a visualization. That'd be kind of cool of a series to do, though. because I think the way you're doing it is really cool. How like I said, other things you're relating it to things that people can relate to these days. And I think the visualness is what I think is what's really great. Cause like I said, I'm a visual guy. I can't, I got books. I got a whole stack of books back there. That crate right there is all my books I get. I've read most of them, but some of them it's just like, I got to take a break on some of them. And like, I'm more of a graphic guy. So like when you playing to my strengths, I was like, yep. All right. That's it. Jim and I are already on the same page. Yeah. I love this already. So my question for you though is for people at home, do you have any advice for anybody at home though? Basically, like if they have mental health issues or know somebody having issues, you want to give them some advice, like, hey, listen, this is what you can do in these situations, just from your perspective. Obviously, these are not like the ironclad things, but these are what would Gemma do? What would you like someone to do if they were in your shoes?
I think one thing that is said a lot when it comes to mental health is ask for help. That's repeated
Hmm.
a lot. And I would say that that is very, very important, but it's not so easy to know where to go and who to ask for help. So I would, I mean, it took me going to basically the emergency department to figure out what I should do, and I spent a lot of years before that, like just not knowing there's like a ton of different types of therapy, there's medication, there's all these things, and then there's everything that's on the internet and social media as well.
Yeah,
Um,
God,
there's people trying
God.
to sell you like supplements and whatever. There's just so much out there, and it's really hard to know where to go. So I would recommend looking up one of the mental health charities. There's a few of them around. I've worked with Mental Health America for a few years
I love
to
it.
create artwork for them. And they have some really great like screening tools and just basic information that can help you find what you need, like more help or
Yeah,
helplines, stuff like that. Because as soon as you start Googling, there's a whole
God,
rabbit
yes,
hole of
yes.
stuff.
Oh no. So, I do have another one to add to your toolkit. Have you ever heard of the helphub.co? Our
I
good
haven't,
friend
no.
Lisa Sugarman actually went and took the time to put this thing together, but it's like a one-stop shop for like mental health things. Like you could explore it, and it's even based on certain religions. Like, some religions believe certain things. She literally went through and put all this work in. It's a real great site to check out for anybody that's listening. And Jim, anybody that might need some help. That's a great one too to offer them as well. She's partnered with recovery.com and things like that too. So, but let's get into the Google thing, okay? So, my biggest fear is when people Google things, what they're finding on the internet. Because like there's a guy I knew that I was watching some of his stuff, and then he was telling people like, go back. He's like, if you're depressed, go back to when you're 18. You'll feel better. I'm like, but what if I hated myself at 18? You know what I mean? Like the internet's a scary place these days. Are you worried about like, what people are putting out there? Because like you're gonna be constantly fighting this now because you're like, no, that's not right. Like, stop. Like, y'all need to quit right now. It's horrible. Your friends will come to you, say something, you're just gonna look at them like, no, that's not right. You need to quit. Where'd you find it? And then they say like Wikipedia or Google or Chat GPT, and you're like, oh God, here we go. Let me talk to you.
Yeah, people do mean well. Um,
I know they do.
and
Yeah.
um, people, everybody has a different experience. So some people have found something that works for them, and that's great. Um, but I think people also, because they might be confused about what anxiety actually is, they might have found something that works for their stress, for
Yeah.
example, and think, well, this will work for everyone. And um, it doesn't work like that. So you'll have people on the internet talking about a supplement that really helped for their anxiety, but that's a very big spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they'll say, "Oh, it stopped me having a panic attack," but then you don't know what that person's experience of a panic attack is. Everyone's so
Yeah.
individual that it's really hard to just go by stuff that you read online.
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful to have some kind of guide, whether it's a therapist or, um, a mental health charity that has cold, hard facts rather than just opinions.
No, I get you. I like that though. I like that point you made that everybody, it may work for you, but it not work for me. I think that's a really great point people need to remember is that just because what works for Gemma doesn't work for Pete and then for so and so and things like that too. So I did want to ask you though, I did look at some of your socials. I know you have a massive following Instagram, but I was wondering about what your experience with TikTok is. Have you had a great experience? Is it kind of like a mixed feeling, because now you're really putting some stuff out there and these people in those comments can get a little savage as we discussed earlier. So what has your experience been like? Have you done any lives, anything like that? Have you gone live and talked to people about it, or you have any plans to do that kind of stuff?
I don't use TikTok a ton just because I have so many other things going on that I just kind of thought that adding one more was just too
Yeah,
much. So I do have an account, but I don't really use it. But I've started using Instagram for reels a little bit more. I haven't done
yeah,
any lives yet. It's something I may do. I've done some kind of ask me anythings, just text
yeah,
based stuff, and I do really like doing that. It's a nice way of being able to communicate with people because I get a lot of DMs and I can't answer them
yeah.
all.
No, I get you on
It's
that
just
one.
too much. But if I dedicate like a couple of hours just to answering questions, um, and because people can be a little bit more anonymous online as well. I
Yeah,
mean, that can go both ways. It can embolden people to be awful,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
can also allow them to ask questions that they might be a little bit scared about asking.
I can only imagine the DMs you get because I get weird ones, and I don't even have the nearest focus followers you do. I could just only imagine the things people ask you in a private setting.
Mhm,
But like that'd be kind of cool though. You think about it, you do like a little live here and there, start talking to people. You
mhm.
could do like our good friend Jennifer, Jen Belgium does. She calls it post and ghost. Like you just set up something, record a little cool video, and then drop it and go, and that's all you do. That's like because TikTok is kind of like I've been playing around with it. I just amassed about 5,000 people on there now, and I've been kind of playing with it a little bit. It's a lot of work, man. I'm on everything. Like, got to
Mhm.
right. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on like everything possible, and I'm a one man show. I don't have anybody else helping me, so I'm doing this all on my own. My anxiety is a constant up and down. People are like, "How you doing, Pete?" Over caffeinated to the point my anxiety hates me, but I'm awake. So, that works, because like I
Right.
record this show on Mondays and Tuesdays. I do 3 to 4 interviews a week and things like that too. So I'm constantly on the go. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm constantly doing other things. And now I have this partnership. So I can only imagine the things that you get coming through on your Instagram feed and
Mhm.
things like that too, stuff like that as well. And stuff like that too. But Gemma, we're at that part of the show where I'm gonna ask you those 2 questions I mentioned to you early on. There is a very interesting question I ask all my guests, and I'm kind of curious to see what your response is. So this one comes in from my good friend at Gretchen, who runs a podcast called The Shit That Goes on Her Head. She asked me when we interviewed, she said to me, Pete, if your mental health had a song, what would that song be? So, Gemma, this is the same question for you. If your mental health had a song, what would you say that song would be? And you can break this down however you want.
That's a really good question. Um, Music is such a big thing for me,
Massive,
and I would say
massive for
that there's
myself.
like a bunch of different songs that kind of speak to it in so many different ways.
So,
Um,
so let's redo it this way. So, Gemma, if you had a playlist of mental health songs, what are those top 5 songs you're listening to? Give me a little insight to what your music taste is.
um, so I have a very, I guess, eclectic music taste in that
Here we go.
I love punk and I love
Okay.
musical theatre.
Oh,
um, so
nothing wrong.
between
Listen,
the
nothing
two of
wrong with that.
them,
Listen, Disney came out with some really great musicals early on. Okay, we all remember Newsies. That was a big one for us. My
yeah,
sister made me
yeah.
watch that religiously, so that's okay. And a punk rock, hey, you got me a punk rock. I like it. So let's go. What would you say your top 5 songs would be if you're having a bad day? Gemma's gonna go to that playlist. What are your songs that you're playing that just give people a feel for what you're listening to?
Okay. I would say that Fugazi's Waiting Room is a
Mm-hmm.
big one for me. I just love the like rhythmicness of it, and it's always like a go-to for me to listen to. Like any mood, I can listen to that. And then if I'm kind of more if I'm angry and I want to get that out, then there's a band called Lambrini Girls who are out of the
Okay.
UK who I really love. And then I've got the combination of punk rock and musical theatre in Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. So something like their cover of Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And then maybe like a Ramones song for something fast and furious.
Yep.
And
Ramones are great.
then if I want to cry, I always go for either something from Les Miserables or from Hamilton. There's a song from Hamilton called It's Quiet Uptown. And there's a line in it that goes, when you're in so deep, I'm paraphrasing, moments when you're in so deep that it's easier to just swim down. And that part gets me every time because it just describes feeling in depression in particular so well, like better than any other thing that I've read.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I like that. I think that's a very interesting answer. I didn't see punk rock and musicals coming out, but listen, hey, listen, I'm not judging over here. I love music myself. I'm a huge punk rock guy. The Ramones are big. My mom is the one that introduced me to them. The Sex Pistols were on that list as well, and a bunch of those other, bands that were over in the UK, because a lot of the punk rock came from there. That's where a lot of the origins for these guys came, and then they came this way, and then I got into other stuff. My whole thing goes all over the place. So real quick, mine was anxiety was Bad Omens, Artificial Suicide is my new one. My other one, I couldn't remember. I chose the other one. But anything fast paced, like because that's what my anxiety's like. The fast. And my depression song was "Turn the Light On, Leave the Tuck Away the Dark" by Papa Roach. Now, because the music video alone is so powerful, because it's at the end of it, it says if you need help, the 988's right there, and I think it's great. Because 988 is really a powerful thing here in the States for people. It's a real great tool. A lot of people, you'll get mixed reviews of people will say about it, but that just means they've never used it, because 988, actually a co-host of another show I do, she and I, we discussed it. She said that she had to use it, and then they followed up 2 days later with her. I'm like, you can't beat that kind of support system right
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So, and things like that. So, Gemma, we are at to the last question of this interview before we start wrapping up. So the question to you now, and the reason I started this whole podcast, is that if you could break the stigma about mental health. Now, when I ask you this question, this is in your own opinion, what do you feel like the one thing you want people to stop thinking about and stop stigmatizing about it?
I think the stigma that the people who struggle with their mental health are one type of person. It can affect absolutely anybody from any walk of life. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter whether you had a good or bad childhood. There are a lot of things that people try and pin mental health on, and you just can't. That it can happen to absolutely anybody. And just because it hasn't happened to you yet doesn't mean that something's not going to happen in the future.
Absolutely
I
love
don't
it,
mean
Gemma.
that as a that sounds a bit like a bit scary, like it's coming for you. But
Don't
you just
mind that
don't
fear
know.
in the closet. It's just your
Yeah.
anxiety coming to get you. No, but Gemma, thank you so much for coming to hang out. It was such an honor to have you. I appreciate you coming to hang out with me. I'm looking forward to everybody else checking out this book and everything like that. So before we start wrapping up, where would you like everybody to reach out to you? I know you said Instagram's usually your heavy presence. Is that where you want people to go? Plug your ad and your Instagram or any other socials you want. The book will be available everywhere I would take it, right? Amazon, anywhere they can find their
Yep.
books at. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yep.
go ahead and plug it up for us. Tell them where they can find you, Gemma.
Yeah, so you can find me. Instagram is where I am the most often. I also use Threads and Facebook. Anywhere that you want to find me, it's just my full name, Gemma Correll. And yeah, the book will be available in all good bookstores, maybe some bad ones too. I
I
don't know.
think she says all good bookstores. Although you put it in like, all good bookstores. I wait a second. There may be some
And
bad
I'll be
ones out
doing some
there.
events too. I've
Heck
got
yeah.
a few Comic Cons and a few book tour
Well,
events
there you
coming
go.
up as well around the country.
So do you want to plug what Comic Cons you're going to be at for everybody listening? Because I know this will be out right before the book drop. So is it going to be after that point?
Yes, so I'm still planning for the year, but
Okay. Okay.
What I know for sure is that I've got SBX in September, the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland, which I've been doing for years. It's a brilliant convention. And then there's also Short Run, which is another comics expo in Seattle in November. And then everything else I'll be posting online once I know
Awesome.
where I'm going to be.
I for sure will be looking out for it so I could share it out to everybody so they know. But Gemma, thank you so much for being here again. I appreciate it.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure having you. I am really enjoying the book and everything like that too. Guys, go out there and check out her book. The day you hear this, the next day it comes out tomorrow, guys. I want you all to go out and let her know you heard her here on Pete vs. Anxiety. Guys, go see her in person. You heard her. She's gonna be out there doing the grind here soon. She got a couple dates she already listed. Plenty more to come, guys. Watch out for my socials for anything else. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. You know where to find me on Pete vs. Anxiety on X, all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify, all the way down to Pandora Radio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety, sign out saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health?